Hey gang, it is our week 5 and it is your spring break. So enjoy your spring break, certainly. But please keep in mind everything that we have coming up from now till the end of the term. Of course, this week you have your assignment on Shirley Jackson's The Lottery and James Joyce's Araby. There's a question for James Joyce's Araby. The book doesn't give you the question, I do. It's kind of a general, all-encompassing question having to do with the ending in particular and the protagonist's particular reaction at the end. So read the announcement, you'll get the question for that. And so the next assignments, well, the big ones, the biggest, of course, at the end is the MLA essay on Othello. It's a research essay, and I'm going to have parameters for that rolled out by next week, I think. So you don't have to wait for me to do any research on that. You could certainly go into the databases, the library databases, like you did for the argumentative in 1101. This time, though, you're going to be searching for literature and literary criticism, and you could go into Academic Search Complete, one of the databases, or JSTOR, or Bloom's Literature, or any great number of databases that are available through Galileo. You could start doing that now, and of course, you know that you have to focus on Iago, the villain in the tale, in the story, the play. And how he is especially insidiously evil, and how he sort of corrupts the characters, especially Othello, throughout the course of the play. So you could get started on that, just kind of getting a feel for what you might want to talk about regarding Iago's particular brand of evil. In fact, that's what you should be doing now, and I'm going to give you particular concrete parameters as to page length and all the T's crossed, I's dotted, P's and Q's, and all that sort by next week. Also, before that, you have a final brief literary analysis. Your first one was on Nathaniel Hawthorne's Young Goodman Brown. You're going to be getting those grades back by this week in a rubric format. It's my understanding that the classes are kind of divided on whether we like or don't like the rubric format. I find them to be particularly useful and appropriate, especially for 1102. In 1102, we've kind of graduated, if you will, from the more sort of holding hands in 1101 to 1102, where, as far as I'm concerned, it's more independent study. It's more you grappling with analyzing the stories, and less of me kind of wading you in the shallow end. So being that that's the case, a rubric should be sufficient enough reflecting how well you did on all the key components of an essay. And they're all covered. You get a breakdown of how well you did, how I am assessing you on each of those points, how well you followed the particular prompt, the essay assignment, how well you incorporated textual evidence, citing the primary source. In this case, it's going to be the poem for Ode to a Grecian Urn, John Keats. For Young Goodman Brown, how well did you incorporate textual evidence from that, the Hawthorne story? How well is it structured? How well is your essay structured? Is it seamlessly integrated? Are there transitions? Things we learned in 1101. Are there seamless transitions between paragraphs? Are the paragraphs about something? Is it a coherent, fully integrated essay? Do you have a clearly stated thesis? Not a thesis question, a thesis statement. And do you defend that thesis statement throughout your essay? Do you set it up well in the introduction? Do you summarize it well in the conclusion? So I think this is the way to go. And plus, added bonus, it helps me generate the grades and get the papers turned back around to you quicker, although it might not seem like that's the case on your end, as we are still using the 2-week model. That's just the constraints of reality there, folks. I need 2 weeks, given that it's not just you all, but I have other classes at the other school where I teach that are also 1101 and 1102. So it's a lot of grading, a lot of papers all at the same time. So the rubric kind of helps expedite the grading on my end when I come down to do it. And I think it's also a little, I don't want to say fairer, but easier. It's softer on you as a student. My grading is kinder, not because I intend it to be that way. That's just how it winds up turning out. If you have atrocious grammar on an essay wherein I don't do the rubric and I do the point by point comments, if I look at that paper and I look at all those comments, I'm like, oh man, this does not add up well. We're gonna have to deduct some serious points here. That kind of sways me to be a little harsher. Whereas when I have those actual number breakdowns for each of the 5 points, it just winds up being a little kinder to you. I tend to really kind of rack my brain in trying to produce what I think is the most precise number value possible. So, for example, for the MLA conventions grammar, if you have a few grammar mistakes or you don't cite the primary source correctly, 17, 18, okay? Now, if you're just woeful with that, or woeful with anything, 15 below, well, 15's not woeful. A 15's a 75, okay? So if you get a 15 out of 20, that's a 75. That's a C. That's average. That's you've done the bare minimum of what you need to do. So if you start saying numbers like 10 to 15 or 10 and below, that's when you have a real wake-up call on your hands, okay? But remember, C, all that means is you've done the bare minimum. Unless you could read your paper and tell me that you have gone above and beyond. Remember, B, a grade of B is good to great. A grade of A is great to excellent. If you feel that you are truly deserving of an A and that's not reflected, or a B or whatever, ask yourself first, is my paper, if I got a B, great to excellent and I deserve an A? If I got a C, is my paper indeed good to great? Maybe I deserve a B. And maybe you're right. And I'm not perfect. I'm not a computer. I'm not a machine. I'm a human being, turns out. So, I fully welcome you politely challenging me on anything within reason. I'm not going to be shaken down or browbeaten to just dole out a better grade for you, but I'm a pretty reasonable person and I want you to do well. That's my mission, is for you to do the best that you can. So email me, discuss it with me. Say, hey, Mr. Volpe, I'm wondering about, say you gave me a 15 out of 20 on clarity of thesis statement. I thought it was pretty clear. Can you please offer me some clarification? And maybe I'll look at your paper again and say, you know what? You got a point. You do deserve a few more points there, okay? Some of you can attest to this. I've done it before for some of you, okay? When you come back to me and sincerely and maturely engage with me about maybe you deserve a little more, I'm negotiable. I'm flexible. But the rule there is you have to email me the paper. You need to give me the essay in an email attachment. Because once I grade the essay, it goes back to you and it leaves me forever. Okay? So I see it that one time as I'm grading it, and then it goes away. So if you want me to look at it again, don't just send me a complaint in an email. Give me the attachment of the essay, and I'm happy to look at it again. Okay? So when you see the grades coming back this week for Young, Gooden, and Brown, just kind of keep that in mind. And then your Keats paper is going to be due on the 13th, Friday the 13th. Okay, it's not a Sunday, as is typical with our essays and homework assignments being due. This is just a way to kind of not bunch everything up so close towards the end of the term. It's only 2 days. It might not seem like a lot, but it makes a lot of difference. So Friday the 13th is going to be when your Keats essay is due. So you should be reading the poem this week. I know you have spring break. Give it a read. It is challenging. It talks. It has to do with the nature of art and beauty and eternity, immortality, perhaps, transcendent values of beauty. Um, it in many ways it's the consummate poem. Keats was a genius. It's speculated that if he had lived longer, he died quite young, in his, I believe, his early 20s, that his genius would have surpassed Shakespeare's, that he was on that track. So you got a doozy to grapple with here, but you are called to do that as burgeoning, growing students, cultivating your minds with engaging with things rigorously, ideas, discussing ideas. So this is right up our alley. So I look forward to good essays there. I'm really looking forward to those Hawthorne essays. Students really dig into that story full bore, and it's kind of a heavy-handed story, so it's interesting to read students' reactions. So I look forward to that. Okay, before I get too long-winded, you're going to expect your Hawthorne essays back this week. Rubric-style grading. That's what you're going to have on the Keats essay for Ode on a Grecian Urn, or Ode to a Grecian Urn. I think I always missay that. And then the Othello essay at the end of the term as well will be a rubric format. And if you want a more detailed breakdown, more commentary given, I'm happy to do that. You just have to specifically tell me what you'd like me to comment on in an email with your paper attached. That's my only condition there, okay? So be looking at the Keats poem. You have your two stories this week, Shirley Jackson and The Lottery, and James Joyce's Araby. And we are marching quickly to the end here. So stay on task. Towards the end of the term, I've become a little less lenient about late assignments and people sort of floating off into space. If you're not with it, if you're not in class with Miss Evans, if you're not under her stewardship and her care and being there with her when you need to be throughout the week, I understand Friday is a voluntary lab, but the days other than that, you should be in class. That's why we are doing this. That's why I am helming things as your primary instructor, and how Miss Evans is such a vital, indispensable part of this entire process, and that she is there with you. Okay, so please take advantage of that and don't disrespect that, please. So we're doing well. Blogs, I responded to the blog and the discussion board. It is Easter Sunday as of the recording of this video, April Fool's Day. I have no April Fools for you, and that itself is not an April Fool's. So no hijinks there. But stay the course, guys, and eat your Wheaties, okay? Because we'll be needing those Wheaties towards the end of the term for sure. Okay, so have a great spring break. Signing off. Au revoir.